this consultation is when we're ready to issue a pre-qual or a pre-approval. This is when this consult is. Now, sometimes I would say probably 50% of the time, there's an initial phone consult that's already been had. And we all know what that initial consult looks like is they have general questions. It's the step that they do before they go online and apply. Some of our realtor partners, they can sell us so strongly and there's such an urgent need for the client that they're buying in the next 3 months that they just immediately go online and apply. And so to give context, this consult is specifically when we've received the application, we've run their max, and now it's time to present their options. And what we do on our team, and y'all, this is just my recipe, take the recipe and make it your own. But what we do on my team is we send an email and a text message that's like, hey, we have your pre-approval complete. Denise would like to hop on a Zoom to go over your loan strategy with you. Do you have time this afternoon, tomorrow, or any day this week that might work best for you? Most of these appointments are done by Zoom. Some people come into the office. Sometimes they want to come into the office, and if they do, of course, we will. My preference, selfishly, is to do it by Zoom. So I'm also licensed in multiple states, so I can't offer in person everywhere. But they respond back and they say, okay, great, I can do this afternoon at 5. Perfect. We send them a Zoom link, calendar invite. They get a 10-minute reminder. Your Zoom session with Denise is starting in 10 minutes. We've been doing this now since August. Everyone meets their appointment. We never.
Did anyone complain about the having to meet via Zoom, no shows?
Because before this, we were just emailing them. What some people do here is like their total cost analysis through Mortgage Coach with maybe a video, and we weren't getting them on the phone and connecting. And that was when Marty was like, you got to switch things up. You got to change your swing a little bit because you can't keep operating like it's 2020. You got to move out of the fast food restaurant phase and move into fine dining. Why is someone going to go to your steak place and overpay for your steak for their anniversary dinner? You need to make it compelling enough. And so they all get on the phone, and I had the mindset, I'm going to be honest, my mindset stunk. I had stinking thinking. I was like, no one's going to want to hop on a Zoom. They're just going to want their numbers. And I was wrong. So that's what I mean by being humbled enough to be open-minded, try it, and maybe you'll start hitting the ball and you won't be shanking. But I will also say that in this presentation, Deborah put this together. It looks very modern and sleek. It doesn't look like a presentation that was built in 1990. And the graphics are very visual. And so when I say the loan officers and the real estate agents that can deliver really complex information in the most clear and concise way will win the market. And the reason why is because the person on the other end of the phone, their human brain can then absorb what we're delivering in a clear and concise way to make a decision. But some of y'all over talk, over show, over data, over numbers, and they stay in a state of confusion and they don't do anything. So let me walk through some of these slides.
Okay.
Thank them. Hey, Johnson family, thank you so much for jumping on the call. I've got 3 primary objectives that I want to share with you. First, and this is sometimes my co-captain, Eric, he'll do these calls if I'm not available. But the first and foremost thing that I'd like to do with you today is review your numbers, review your budget, how much home you can buy, what your monthly payment would be. We're going to go into that first. And then the second thing I'd like to do is give you a really short rate and market update about what's going on and where the market's headed. Outside of those 2 things, Deborah, is there anything else that would be meaning for you in this call today?
No.
And I'm asking that question because I want to know what they want to talk about. Don't take 30 minutes or 45 minutes with somebody and only go over what you think they want to know. They might not even want to know that. So pause, ask the question. So at this point, I would go over their numbers. I actually don't do a TCA for this. This is an example of what we show them. So if I'm on the phone with them, I'll use this Excel spreadsheet. All I have to do from the behind the scenes stuff is all I do is plug in the purchase price and it calculates all this for me. And I show them like, hey, the max that we can approve you is $440. You asked for a target sales price of $320. You wanted a monthly payment of $3,000. So that's right in line with what you were looking for. You also wanted to see what your max would be with down payment assistance. So I've done that here for you. And then I'm going to touch on this on a little bit. This is our future rate redo. We're pretty certain that rates are going to come down. We don't know when, but we're pretty certain they're gonna come down from where they are now. So I always like my customers to see, one, we offer a rate redo program, which means we'll drop your rate and drop your payment. But I want you to see what your buying power is at that same 440 price with rates today versus potentially, there's no guarantee, potentially if rates were to settle down in the low fives. Why do you guys think I don't call this a refinance? It sounds bad. People have a negative connotation to the word refinance, that people only refinance when they're in some sort of financial hardship. It means there's a lot of closing costs. So this is what I mean, y'all. This is what I mean by, I'm not saying calling it a rate redo means that you're going to get all of a sudden all these new leads, but what you will find is in all of my communication to the client, my words are so intentional. And so don't underestimate the words that you use and the sequence you use them. It matters. Just showing them this up front has won me deals because they're like, wait, what, you have a program for us even after closing? Yeah, you see, Mr. Customer, most lenders, in fact, when you bought your last home, you probably never heard from your lender. But I have a post-closing customer service team, and we have a rate watch program where what we're doing is we're watching the rates for you even after closing. We're going to help monitor how much home has appreciated every single month, which is through HomeBot. And we're going to be watching these rates for you because as rates start to come down, every lender in America is going to start calling you. You're going to get stuff in the mail. You're going to get calls. And my gosh, it looks legitimate and it looks good, but it's usually baked in with a bunch of closing costs. So please don't forget about this program. Don't worry, we won't let you forget about it, but it's a great program. And we don't want to redo your loan when rates are on the way down. We want to do it when we feel like they've hit rock bottom. But this is what I'm showing them when I'm going over their charts and numbers. Full disclosure, I'm not doing a TCA. Sometimes I will do a rent versus own if it's a current client that's renting. But for the most part, they need to know what's my max, what's the price at the payment I told you I wanted, how much money am I going to have to bring to closing? And I tell them at the end of this call, I will email you this chart. This is a great chart to save in your phone. And as you're shopping on nights and weekends, a good rule of thumb is that every $10,000 of the price that goes up or down on a 30-year mortgage is about $50 a month to your payment. Why do you think I teach them that? Because I don't want them calling me asking me to run a million payment charts for them when I can give them the formula.
Which that chart alone, Denise, is probably what most people, when they show up to that meeting, they're most anxious about. Do I even qualify? How much do I qualify for? And what does the monthly payment look like? Is what I would.
Yeah, that's why you have to hit it head on, because you have to address, I just asked them for basically 40 minutes of their time. How dare I not utilize it in exactly how they want? That chart to me, I can make the font a little bit bigger. That's my only beef with like Mortgage Coach is I can't expand it how I want it to look and I can't make the font bigger. And so that's why I use it like that. Doesn't mean that I'm not still potentially going down a rent versus own and things like that. But I use my TCA more at the contract consult, which we'll go over.
And is there any compliance concern with that, Denise? Because I know sometimes people are like, how are you showing the payment if there's no rate? But
yeah, you're not supposed to. But I talk about it in the call. We'll bring up rates. I say to them, I'm specifically not showing you a rate yet on this report because I want to talk to you about mortgage rates next. Because if I include the interest rate on that Excel chart, they think it's a rate quote. And I'm not ready to go to the rate quote yet. And to answer some of y'all's questions, I'm not sending them this before the call. I'm holding this all as leverage before the call. Now, the text message that we send to them that says, hey, we're ready to jump on your pre-purchase consult to review your pre-qual or your pre-approval. If they respond back and say, is there any way that you can email this to me first? We will, of course, email it. But my preference is to start with holding it as leverage because I want to get them on the phone. I want to get a Zoom consult. I want them to see me and me to see them. And I want to build trust and I want to connect and I want to find out why. Why are you looking to buy here? Because of the school district? What about the school district is, oh, because it's a great football school? Do you have someone that's playing? Oh, they're a quarterback for the school. Okay. Or do you think they'll play in college? Like I'm building so much relationship with them and not for nothing. There's no way that person's going to go do another long hour conversation with another lender because getting a mortgage is about as fun as going to the dentist. So no one's going to want to do that again. That if they somewhat like me and we connect, it's probably good enough, right? After we've drilled down on their numbers, their payment chart, their funds to close, I ask them, it's very important that you stop and you ask questions and you actually listen to the answers. Does everything with your numbers, these numbers make sense? Are you clear on what you can qualify for and what your purchasing power is, Deborah?
Yes.
Okay, great. Check. By the way, I'm doing this to the client. This is also how I present this to I had a big real estate meeting last week in front of 20 real estate agents. And this is what I was going over with them. I said, it's really important how I am communicating to your client because my goal is to help you acquire and retain more clients. This is the number one way that we're doing it. And you need to know what we're saying to your client. This is what I'm doing. So think about this with both hats, to clients and to real estate agents. How I'm presenting to y'all today is very similar to how I present this to a real estate agent to show them how I motivate and educate clients to buy. So keep that in the back of your mind. All right, so one of my most favorite topics right now is interest rates. Before I dive into it, Deborah, what do you understand about mortgage rates today and how they move?
I know they're a lot higher than what they were a couple years ago, which sucks.
Yeah.
But
Those
I
are
don't know
kind
how
of the
they move.
I don't know how they move. There's a reason why this slide is here, y'all. You have to ask them this before you show them rate stuff because you're exposing the fact that they don't know anything about rates in a very professionally polite way. I had a guy say to me last week, I bought a lot of cars, so I'm pretty familiar with how rates work. Y'all, their perception is real. They've bought a lot of cars, so they're very familiar with how mortgage rates work. If I don't ask that and uncover that, we're going to have a disconnect because he thinks he knows everything and I have to politely show him that he doesn't know squat. But you got to ask the question before you give them the information. You got to get the context. So I've got a placeholder here that shows MBS Highway. MBS Highway is a program that costs money. You don't have to use MBS Highway. You can use Mortgage News Daily and pull up a bond chart or an interest rate chart. I don't actually do this. What this placeholder is for is a reminder for me to pull up MBS Highway live. And so I'm dragging it into my conversation and I'm showing clients, hey, one of the things about interest rates is no lender can lock in your interest rate right now. The only thing that we can do is monitor rates, but we can't lock in an interest rate until you're under contract and you have a close date. So I don't want to go into too much detail with you today, Mr. Customer, about rates. And I certainly don't want to make you a mortgage nerd, but I just want to show you enough to know why you might hear things on the news that may or may not startle you, that shouldn't startle you. So what you're looking at here is what's called the mortgage bond market. And mortgage bonds are just a form of an investment. Investors can invest their money in the stock market or the S&P 500. They can invest in treasury bonds, and they can also invest in things called mortgage bonds. Bonds are typically a safer investment. And all I really want to show you is that, do you see how there's a little bit of red and green on this chart, Deborah? What that means is that interest rates, green means good, red means bad. That means that every single day, here's where we are today. This is a 3-month look back. Do you see how every single day there's either some red or some green? What that means is that rates not only move every single day, but sometimes they move throughout the day. Like you see here on February 13th, we have a big red candlestick. That's what this is called. Or here on December 13th, we had a big green one. The longer that candlestick, the more movement of rates on that one particular day. And this has nothing to do with your FICO score or down payment. This is just simply how the bond market is moving. And when the price of these bonds are moving, it's actually what causes mortgage rates to move. So all I want to show you today is that interest rates do change every single day. It's not just me blowing smoke. And I'll say that it's not me just blowing smoke. So in my opinion, when we're at this stage and you want me to estimate a mortgage payment for you, I have to use an interest rate, right? So would you rather me use a overestimated rate or a best case scenario rate? Knowing that rates change every single day, which rate would you like me to use to estimate your payment?
The higher one.
They always say higher. When have you ever in your consult gotten a client on a recorded line to admit that they'd rather you use a higher rate to estimate? There's power in that, y'all. Massive power. Depending on how savvy they are, I might zoom this out over the 2-year time period and show that in the last 2 years, you can see that the demand for mortgage bonds have gone down. When the demand for bonds have gone down, that means investors aren't buying as many mortgage bonds. Perhaps they're investing more in the stock market. So when we see that downward slope, all that means is that mortgage rates themselves are going up. So when we see the rate go down, that's not good news. In fact, on October 26th of last year is when rates hit their highest point. But we've started to see some recovery up until about the start of this month, where we start to see this downward trend again. And I know you're probably thinking, Denise, why on earth is now a good time to buy when interest rates creeped back up over 7%? Let me tell you why. And so that's the first mention of me quoting a specific rate is why on earth, with the news that came out at the start of February, and we start to like notice, I'm not going into a whole lot of detail. Y'all, I could go really complex. I'm pretty well versed in secondary and how rates work, or all I want them to know is when that line goes down, rates are up. There's an inverse relationship. Demand for mortgage bonds, when the demand is going down, listen to the key words. There's a reason why I'm using these words. So all I'm training them is that when the line goes down, it means rates go up. And let me go back to my
So
presentation.
Denise, so John had asked, do you think that ever confuses them because of the way that the chart, like it's backwards when it goes down, that actually means rates go up? And have you ever thought or tried the 10-year chart instead?
No, I purposely use the bond. It's a great question because I've thought that myself. Let me answer that more accurately. It does cause confusion, but in this instance, I'm almost intentionally, now I sound like a crazy person, but I'm almost intentionally, I wouldn't say trying to cause confusion. I'm disrupting their mind a bit, because if I just show them the interest rate chart, it's too logical, rates going up, rates going down. I want them to know that the reason why rates go up and down is not because of the federal funds rate, it's because of the demand for mortgages and buyers buying. So I try to stick to and notice, I don't even talk about what bond this is, 10-year or not. There's no reason to go into that level of detail. That is going into too much detail.
So I think that's just a
All of
perfect
them-
example for those who, like, those of you who are on this call investing your time right now. This is like a small change in words of how you explain something, as simple as demand with the bonds and what that does to rates. Just starting to integrate that little piece into your conversations, start to see how that moves the needle in your business. But this is, you can't win if you don't show up.
And sometimes I do read the room, depending on how much detail I think I need to go into. If I need to go into more detail, I'll explain what happened here in February that caused demand to go down. I'm not going to do that for every client. I'm not going to do that for first-time home buyers because that'll shut their brain down. But maybe a more educated buyer, I would say, I would back up and say, you see here on December 13th, we had a great day in the market. The reason for that was because the Feds met in December 13th and they said, you know what, we think we got it wrong. We think that we increased the federal funds rate too often, too much this year. And we're predicting that we're going to lower the federal funds rate a couple of times in 2024. So when investors heard that, they didn't even do anything to the federal funds rate. And I've already explained to the client that the federal funds rate is not mortgage rates, but because investors invest their money based on what's going on with the market, do I want to buy bonds or do I want to buy stocks? Because they said, we are predicting, I think I heard an article that was like, I think one article said potentially 6 times for a federal funds rate decrease. Because they heard that, they were like, ooh, they're predicting mortgage rates to come down. The demand goes up, and then February hits. Anybody know what happened the first week of February? The jobs report came out, and the jobs report came out way healthier than what we were expecting. And then here, the inflation numbers came out. And so why, with good unemployment numbers and good inflation, why would people not be investing in mortgage bonds? Because with healthy numbers like that, with GDP, inflation, jobs, there's no reason that when the Feds meet again in March, for them to actually do what they thought they were going to do in December, which was lower the federal funds rate. And the rates are already reacting to the news that came out. So the demand slipped and here we are. And we've been a lot more stable. Like that's pretty good stability until guess what? We have a nice job. The Feds meeting. Now, I'm not going to get into all that nitty gritty with somebody on the phone if they don't need it. But sometimes I'll say, just take a look at these last few weeks. You might see on your Instagram stories that rates went up. Well, rates went up compared to what? This is a micro movement in the bonds, but that's not gonna sell a headline. That's not gonna have clickbait. So they're just gonna say rates went up when the reality is rates have been pretty stable. So just know buying a home is a lot like buying a red Jeep. You weren't in the market to buy a red Jeep. Now every time you drive to work, red Jeeps everywhere. It's because your antennas are alerted for anything that comes out that's talking about Jeeps and specifically red Jeeps. It's the same thing that's gonna happen with you. Your news feed and the algorithms and everything knows that you're paying hyper attention to interest rates and to home buying. And so you have to know a couple of things. One, they're looking for clickbait. And two, if you see something advertised, online interest rates are just advertised rates. They don't know enough about your situation, where you're buying, percent down, FICO score. In fact, I wanted to show this to you because if you Google mortgage rates 30-year fixed, you're going to get one answer. And you can go to this Mortgage News Daily site and they'll give you 3 different answers on 30-year fixed. And all 3 of the rates are different and some have points and some don't. And this is why people hate buying a home and they hate going to the dentist. It's so darn confusing. But don't worry, part of what I do for you is I can shop multiple banks and find the best rate. And once we get to the point where a seller has accepted your offer and you go under contract, now the fun begins. I'm going to shop the rates for you. That just means pull up my Optimal Blue and look through all the investors. And then I'm going to show you behind the curtain. I'm going to show you what most lenders would never show you because it is my passion to empower you with all of your numbers. Here's what it looks like. This is really small and this is just a sample. Y'all, I showed them, I take a snippet of OB and I show them, here's your rate column. Here's the cost column. I'm going to show you all of this. I have nothing to hide. But then we're going to run a break-even analysis, which is done through Mortgage Coach. And I'm going to be able to help guide you on which rate makes the most sense. But what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to just pick 2 rates that I think make the most sense, send you 2 PDFs, write a bunch of text in an email, and then ask you, which one do you want? I'm not going to do that. You think anybody can read those sheets? Do the math on those sheets? You think people are actually good at math? No, I'm going to show you behind the curtain. I'm going to show you all of your rates. I'm going to educate you on why the rates look the way that they do. And then I'm going to pick the 4 rates from that chart that I think that make the most sense. I'm going to fast forward you in each of those rates 24 months, because that's how long I think it's going to take for rates to hit rock bottom. And your decision is going to be so crystal clear because math never lies. And that's why I'm a math nerd. It is a lot easier to make a financial decision when we use data, numbers, and charts and not emotion.
So do you show any price exceptions when you're showing that? And do you provide an OB snip for every client?
I don't do the OB snip and any of that until we get under contract. That's during my contracts consult, which I am willing to bet you guys are going to ask to see next is what the interest rate consult and the contract consult. I'd be happy to show you guys that next. This is just me setting the stage of how I'm different and how I'm empowering them to understand things about the rates moving. I'm saying things like, I'm going to show you something that notice the tone and how I pause. I do that every time. Mr. Customer, I'm going to show you what most lenders would never show you. But to me, it's important that you know all of your rate options and that we run a financial analysis to figure out which one's going to yield you the highest break even, because it's not just shopping rates, it's loan strategy. And that consists of 3 things: analyzing the rate, the cost, and the break even. In a market that we're in right now more than ever, it is so important to know what the loan strategy is and the highest break even, because your purchase price is permanent, your interest rate is temporary. Okay, that's the rate piece. I touch on it. And then if I feel like I need to go into, sometimes with my first time home buyers, I'll ask them this question. Okay, the last thing I want to finish up on, Mr. Customer, is a lot of people get confused. Is now still a good time to buy? Are we going to be in a housing bubble? Is the market going to crash? Before I go into this, I just would like to get your mindset on where do you think home prices are headed over the next few years? I'm asking, and then I'm showing, and I'm showing with using the chart from MBS Highway, and I'm articulating to them what the blue lines are, what the orange lines are. Most people think we've been in a shortage since 2021, but the truth is we've been in a shortage since 2017. So the compound effect of that shortage is what we're seeing today. 72% of people put home buying on pause last year because rates went up so fast. They're ready to re-enter the market. And when they do, when we had a shortage of toilet paper and everybody needed toilet paper, what happened to the price of toilet paper? I oftentimes will use analogies that make sense to them. Most people understand the toilet paper analogy in COVID. Same thing with real estate, y'all. When there's a shortage of real estate, and there's a shortage for a lot of different reasons, but the shortage isn't going to get cleared up for a long time. First time home buyer generation is the largest we've seen. We've accidental landlords where people who would have normally sold their home, listed it, sell it by another. They're flirting with the idea of keeping it and turning it into a rental because they have a great rate. In DFW, every 6.5 minutes, there's somebody relocating here. Y'all, we have an inventory problem. So if demand is going to exceed the inventory, which we're already seeing here, because we're back to a multiple offer situation customer and the rates are still over 7%. And let's say it's 2019 and you bought a house for 400,000. In 2020, you made a 10% appreciation rate. That's 40 grand that you made on your home in that 1 year. That's half your salary. Or you're paying $1,800 a month in rent. So let's see, $1,800 times 12. Or you could just stay where you are and pay $21,000 in rent. Or you can buy a house, even an ugly house. And I'm not guaranteeing that you're going to get 10%. I certainly can't guarantee that you're going to get 19, but I can tell you with data, numbers, charts, and stats that we have pent up buyer demand and we don't have inventory. And I don't see inventory just popping up out of nowhere unless a bunch of these baby boomers just start dying. Don't say that. It would be nice if they died because it would free up some homes. So,
But do you know that was the one thing I asked Barry is like, he always talks about birth rates and household formations. And I'm like, but what about death rates? And he had said that there's not an easy or trackable way to measure death rates. But I was like, there's got to be, the boomers are a big demographic. They're going to be dying off, they say around like 2030.
Yeah. So just find some old people and no, I'm just kidding. It's okay, Rick. We want you to hang around. I swear we want you to hang around. Yeah.
John,
Yeah. Know your
exactly what not to say when you're with the
I
client.
know. Y'all, I would never say that. I joke about it with you guys and with my nerds. But the truth is that boomers are sitting on real estate, probably with a low interest rate and more equity than ever. Their intention is to pass that home down to their beneficiaries or their family. So I had a client call me this morning and ask, how can I get a 0% down loan if I don't qualify for down payment assistance? I'm not a veteran and I'm not looking in a USDA area. I said, you could ask your parents for a, what did I call it? A advance on the inheritance money that is coming in the future. And they were like, what do you mean? I was like, you said that your parents own their house free and clear, and you could just tap into that equity and use it as a advance on the inheritance that's coming. And I'm sure they would love to help you get into a home and stop paying rent, or you have to know the situation and know them, but that is a way if they could help. And maybe they don't have the cash in their accounts, but they might have the equity and they could do a line of credit. So anyways, showing people the appreciation rates are huge. So many people are focused on the interest rates, but everyone's so upset about this boomer. Y'all, I don't want anybody to go. I promise you I don't.
It's a circle of
But
life.
showing
That's
people
part of- sorry.
showing people the appreciation rates, this is what real estate agents love when I present this. They're like, holy cow. Because this is what moves the needle, especially when you include a rent versus own if it's a first-time home buyer. Tell me when a realtor sees what you do to present to a client that's clear and concise and baked in with a bunch of data. Tell me how they're not going to think that referring every client to you is going to help convert them or at least educate and motivate them that now's a good time to buy. Because most lenders don't do anything like this. So you just showing up to the appointment or calling a realtor, like one of the loan officers on our branch, one of the things that we have things that we commit to. So one of her commitments is after every closing, she calls the listing agent and says, hey, I just wanted to reach out to you, see if you had any constructive criticism for me. Was there anything that I could have done different? Also, I've been helping a lot of agents here locally. Okay, I have 3 programs and values that I bring to agents. I'd love to take a 15-minute Zoom and share those with you. And we'll go into a deeper detail about what you say as your value propositions or what programs, but you get the appointment with them and you say, the number one most important thing that I do is I lead with education and transparency, and that accelerates trust and confidence with your client. And what I have found is when your clients has clarity, they have confidence, and you'll convert more clients when they work with me. Huge. But if you're doing this all over the phone, if you're doing this with just words, if you're doing this in a long email, you're causing confusion. I have found that if we can provide clarity to your clients, the clarity creates confidence. And when your client has confidence, they're able to make a decision and be motivated to buy a home. But if not, they're paralyzed in indecision. And my job as your lender is to help educate and provide that clarity so that not only are they ready to go out and make an offer, but they feel empowered to, they're confident to. There's not going to be the back and forth. And this is why our consult is so important. And this is what's been the number one reason why we've been able to convert more buyers more than ever.
I think too, as the market picks up and we see more and more multiple offers, it's even more important to articulate to agents that we help your clients get offers accepted faster because of this clarity and confidence where they can make quick decisions, but they're still informed decisions.
Yeah. So I know that was a lot, but the purpose of the consult is have something visual. Don't overcomplicate what you're explaining. Answer the question right away about what their numbers are, payment, funds to close, buying power, address that right away. Then you're gonna touch on interest rates. You're not gonna go into a huge spiel about them. You're just gonna touch on them because you're gonna tell them, I can't lock an interest rate in right now. So it's almost like monitoring the stock market. There's really no point because we can't lock anything in. But what I will tell you, Mr. Customer, is that when the time comes, we will have a contract consult. I'll show you behind the curtain. I'll show you all your rate options, and then we'll run a break-even analysis so that you know exactly what rate to pick, because yes, you get to pick the rate, not me.
So how does it end? Because I don't think you showed the last slides. Was that the end of it?
They're the approval number slides.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll know getting this and then having somebody watch your swing. I think that's, if I was a loan officer today and I felt like I was struggling, I would be going to my branch manager and saying, I need you to watch my swing. Why am I shanking? And be open-minded to it. But what that might mean is, like when my loan officer started putting this into practice, they recorded their Zooms with the client. And then every week we get together as a group and we watch a recording and we could critique it. We all do, myself included. I learn stuff about myself all the time by watching myself, but we will learn what they said and when they said it, and they see, oh gosh, yeah, I went way too long here. Do y'all know, unless you're doing that, we have such blind spots. Like sometimes I black out. I don't even know what I said for the last 20 minutes because we have blind spots. We're human. And so my loan officers, I'm like, I want you to record your Zooms. It's a little bit weird because the client's like, you're recording this. And you just say, I'm recording this so that if you want to watch it afterwards, you certainly can. But we record it because that's what we use to watch the stream. We're watching our film. And same thing with real estate agents. If my loan officers do this presentation for real estate agents to show them how we're adding value to their business and converting more clients, I say, try to record it and then I'll critique you, because they don't realize the words that they say and the sequence that they say them and where they lose people. And the only way that you're going to learn and get better is if you watch the tape and you have somebody else critique you. And little by little, every week when we meet, you get a little bit better and a little bit better. And we're constantly fine tuning and we're getting a little bit better. And then all of a sudden you start having these closings and you're like, closings create what? Confidence. You're like, okay, this actually works. It's really, you start to have fun again. You start to have success again. You start to have a reason to call agents and you have compassion and conviction behind calling them. No, you need to talk to me. I'm going to tell you, you need to talk to me. Your clients need to see this. If you guys like this, give it a thumbs up. Hey, I have actually one selfish request. If you guys start using this and you have success, will y'all share the success? Like that's what pumps me up with more fuel to keep doing this. If I don't get the fuel, I don't know if that's selfish reassurance or it shows how needy of a person I am, but I am needy. I like to know that it's working. That makes me want to do more of these for y'all. So that's the payoff. We don't charge anything, but I do want to hear the success stories there. But anyways, please share your success in the Facebook group with us. You can send me an email. You can shoot me a DM. I'd love to see it, hear it. If y'all are still on, take a picture, tag us on social media that you attended Nerd and Bird today. That gives us some social cred and some social love. You need like a signature dance. You know how like Usher's like, I think I need to go eat. I think I need some food.
Wow. Wow. Is there any alcohol in your drink there?
No, it's just been, this stuff gets me fired up because I know somebody will take it and they'll be able to do something with it. And loan officers have been struggling. And I get this like, high. I've never been high on any drug in life, but this stuff makes me excited. Okay, y'all,
You are such a
you said
nerd.
this
This is what gets you high on life. You are such a nerd.
does. It does. You said this was a shame-free environment. I feel shamed right now.
I said we're not gonna, I may judge in my head for half a second. I just usually end up saying it out loud. But it's a good thing you're a nerd. You say you're a nerd.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm glad you never went after that backup dancer position for Beyonce because struggle
Well,
bus.
whatever.
Struggle
Well,
bus.
okay. I'll at you later. Bye.
Bye.